And hello, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of the European Soccer Show. Today, joining me is our glorious writer covering Ligue 1. It is Léo Aschi.
Hello, Daniel.
Bonjour, Léo.
Bonjour, Daniel. How are you? Comment ça va?
I'm okay, thank you. Merci. Yes, have you been well? Good summer?
Yeah, good summer. The football is back, so everything is good. And you?
Well, did the football ever leave? Obviously, you and I were helping covering the Club World Cup and as well the Women's Euros. And I think we had about 6 minutes between that ending and the season starting.
Yeah, maybe 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah. But the football never stops, never stops. So today we will be covering basically a bit of a season preview, despite the fact the season has already started, because we still have 6 days left of the transfer window. So lots to talk about regarding transfers in and outs. We will be covering the top 5 of the European League, so the Premier League, Ligue 1, La Liga, Serie A, and Das Bundesliga. Or Die Bundesliga. My German's as bad as my French. So we're covering the transfers and all activity for that. And then later on in the show, which will be what our regular weekly show will be about, we'll be discussing the major results of the previous weekend and diving into a bit more detail. This, of course, is running alongside our weekly articles. As I said before, Leo is doing our weekly roundup for Ligue 1. Myself are doing the Premier League. I believe we have David Ford covering the Bundesliga and Patrick McKinnon on Serie A. And of course, we got Pedro Pimentel doing La Liga now. So make sure
and
everybody...
Angus doing the championship too.
And Angus is doing the championship, of course. England's second-tier competition, being this, I think, the 7th or 8th most supported league in Europe, which is astonishing. Yeah. But yes, keep your eyes all on Sports Talk United for those weekly roundups. But for now, we are going to talk transfer talks and updates for the teams and the seasons ahead for our leagues. But rather than just you and me, Leo, choosing between the Premier League and Ligue, I thought I'd go on a little wheel. So I put all the leagues in a little wheel. I have unmuted it because I'll be honest, the music that goes along with it is absolutely irritating. So let's spin that wheel. The very first league we are going to be discussing is, it's the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga, of course. Now, the Bundesliga only kicked off this weekend, so it's only just started. But I suppose the major transfers for the Bundesliga, we should start with Bayern Munich, defending champions. So looking at some of the transfers coming into Bayern, you've got, of course, Jonathan Tah. I mean, this happened before the Club World Cup. So Jonathan Tah arrived on a free transfer or a nominal fee from Bayer Leverkusen. They also signed Timo Bischoff from Hoffenheim, but the major signing was Luis Diaz from Liverpool for 70 million euros. Now, Leo, do you think, considering Bayern obviously won the league quite comfortably last season, but Bayern were left quite vulnerable at times in the Champions League. Did you watch much of them? Did you feel like you had an understanding of what their weakness was? And do you think these transfers have addressed that?
I don't know if you watched the game against Red Bull Leipzig this weekend.
Well, no spoilers. We'll get to that later.
Okay, but just to say, they were quite impressive. I had the chance to watch Bayern Munich play against Lyon in the preseason. I think it was their first game of preparation before resuming the Bundesliga. And last year they were really. I think the point was to win again the Bundesliga because Bayer Leverkusen have stole them their title 2 seasons ago. So yeah, the point last season the point was to win back the Bundesliga, to adapt to a new coach with Vincent Kompany. So this season it's more like they needed a defender for sure, because we saw that Dayot Upamecano, Kim Min-jae was often injured.
But even when they played together, it didn't quite work, did it? There was They weren't great running back at their own goal.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing for them to have recruited Jonathan Tah from Bayer Leverkusen, it was just for 2 million euros. So it was a good deal, to be honest.
It was one of those where they wanted him before the Club World Cup. So as opposed to arriving for free, it's a nominal fee. No, it's millions.
Yeah, but it's a good deal because he's 29 or 30 years old. He's a German international. He won the title with Bayer Leverkusen, so he knows what what winning means, because to win a championship like Bundesliga, and to recall, they have not lost a single game in the Bundesliga that season. So he was a pillar in the defense. I think it was really a good deal for them. His name were linked also to Barcelona this summer. So even if it doesn't say everything of the player, being scouted by Bayern Munich, Barcelona, is kind of a proof of your value, in my opinion. For Jonathan Tah. Now, if we speak about Luis Diaz, they needed someone on the left for sure, because with Coman gone to Al Nasser, Niabri, I think he will occupy a more position of a 10 in the
especially
team.
with Musiala injured for the season.
Yeah, Musiala injured for between, I don't remember, 4 and 5 months, I think. And Leroy Sané going to Galatasaray, they needed someone on the left flank. I think 70 million euros for Luis Diaz is maybe a little bit overpriced, but it's like that because he came from Liverpool, Liverpool winning team in the Premier League. So Liverpool were in
prime. It's not as if he's old. I think he's 27.
Yeah,
so
28.
28. So prime Luis Diaz.
Yeah.
And like you say, sort of course, they not only do they let go of Kingsley Coman to Al Nassr, but they also let Sane go to Galatasaray. So there was a gap on the wing. Absolutely. Quickly,
and Brian Zaragoza too, because Brian Zaragoza went on loan to Celta Vigo. He could have been an option, even if temporarily, but on the left side. So yeah.
Quick look at Leverkusen, who have had one of the biggest turnovers of, I was going to say squads, but it is first team. Of course, their first team players like Jonathan Tah, Frimpong, both left, so that's the centre back, and their right wing back. Granit Xhaka went to Sunderland. Of course, the big one was Florian Wirtz going to Liverpool. And a big long list of signings coming in. You had Jarell Quansah as centre back. You had Bade from Sevilla. Yeah. You've got Poku.
Tillman.
And Tillman. That was the big one, right? Now, obviously, Leverkusen couldn't defend the title last season, but they've gone through such an overhaul, players-wise. Who do you think the best incoming is? Because of course it's hard. It's quite obvious the outgoings are significant because they are some of them. Like Frimpong's one of the most exciting attacking wing backs, right backs in the world.
Yeah.
Florian Wirtz is one of the most interesting and exciting young talents in world football. So these are obvious losses. Granit Xhaka actually being that incredible technical and experienced pivot point in the middle. Obviously, so where they're going to be exposed is quite obvious, where they've lost out. But what do you think the biggest incoming is?
I think Loic Bade is their best addition of the summer, because he's just 25 year old. He was a standout player at Sevilla, but
they had a difficult season actually, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was a standout player at Sevilla, but a struggling Sevilla. But he's really talented. He's strong on the ball. He has real qualities. I don't think it's I think it will be interesting to see him in a different context, because now he will be in one of the most dominant team in the Bundesliga. He's quite young. I think he will have the chance to go to the French team if he does well. So yeah, this is for me the best signing of Bayer Leverkusen summer.
On to Dortmund. Dortmund have had an interesting turnover because obviously they've not signed anyone since the Club World Cup. So the big incomings was Svensson on the left, Jan Kuto on the right, like wing backs, and Joe Bellingham from Sunderland through the middle. It's quite interesting the fact that Dortmund obviously sold Jamie Gittins to Chelsea. I mean, who hasn't sold a player to Chelsea this season? But also, I suppose it's the shift of system, isn't it, under Niko Kovac? So it looks like they don't need wingers in his system. It looks like they play like a 3-4-2-1, so with two number 10s and Girassi up top. Girassi, sorry.
No problem.
But it does feel like Dortmund are a bit light, doesn't it? It feels like they're, especially defensively, like the Club World Cup, defensively, they weren't great, despite the fact that they on paper, they have a defensive 5, when in retreating.
But Dortmund, I don't know if you feel the same. It's quite a strange team because a strange club, even because they are one of the biggest clubs in Germany. And if you just look at their arrivals and departures, you would think they're maybe a top 7, top 5 teams. I don't think their transfer window reflects on their ambition. And what is their ambition? I'm not an expert on the Bundesliga, but when I see the Bayer Leverkusen, for example, transfer window, it makes me think that they have real ambition to compete with Bayern München. Maybe not overtake on Munich, but yeah, being like a real second or a dark horse for the title. Dortmund are more special. We know that their strategy is about to build on young players they can sell for a higher price, but I don't think they will compete for the title this season once again.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, because the next question I was going to ask was sort of talk about title predictions and potential winners or potential teams finishing at the top. It's one of those things where it does feel like everybody has gotten weaker around Bayern. Now, obviously, Bayern have a huge advantage financially anyway, but Leverkusen, who have been their only rivals in the past 2 seasons, Leverkusen have been gutted, and it's going to take time. They've got a new manager in Erik ten Hag. They've got basically half a new first team. They may come good, but it's going to take time. And Dortmund feel like what are Dortmund? Same thing with Leipzig. Leipzig have had a strange old time of it last season. So it doesn't seem that there's an obvious team to actually challenge for Bayern. So are you thinking the same as me? Just like kind of like a straightforward title, like a one-horse race for Bayern?
Yeah, but I think it's something, except in the Premier League, maybe. It's something, we have the same thing in France. No one seems to be just close to PSG, and I don't think someone is really close to Bayern Munich in Germany.
Well, I suppose. Sorry.
Yeah. No, even if it dates back from 10, 15 years.
I was going to say the last 3 years, there has been more turnover. So 3 years ago, Dortmund threw the title away on the last day of the season. Like drawing
against Mainz. I think.
Mainz, yeah. So Dortmund threw that one away and really should have had the title there. And obviously, 2 seasons ago, Leverkusen won undefeated, and Bayern Munich finished 3rd behind. I think it was behind Stuttgart. And obviously last season then Munich were, but also it had just been slightly different. That would have been 3 different winners in 3 years, but as it is, it's only 2, and it looks like Munich are back to being dominant. And we saw this with Leverkusen, right? It's like, yes, they had a brief moment of like, well, hey, we're not only the best team, but possibly the best German team ever. They're like being undefeated, having, I think it was record points total, unbelievable season, and of course, but they don't have the financial power, and therefore, like, their players get taken away, which happens, and they just have to sort of recycle, right, and try and do it again. But I suppose the point being that but in that time, Dortmund have completely fell away. Leipzig have completely fallen away. And yet Bayern, even if a substandard Bayern, will still compete for the title regardless. But this is actually looking like a good Bayern now. Last year it looked like the transition season. This season it's more like okay, companies
they can
printers all over this.
Yeah.
I would say I suppose my tip would for a team to watch out for is Frankfurt. Frankfurt are like talking about Dortmund feeling like a top 6-7 club. Frankfurt's turnover has been astonishing. So in the last, there was an article published in The Athletic, I think it was recently, about how Frankfurt have made 345 million euros selling strikers alone in the last 6 years, and yet in that time they've finished 5th, 11th, but they won the Europa League, 7th, 6th, and then 3rd last year, and that's whilst having this constant churn of strikers. And of course, currently they have Elia Wahi, which of course you'll be very familiar with. And I think they picked up Burkhardt from Mainz. So you do feel like at least one of those two next season or the season after will be sold for big money somewhere. Because
and I think it will be
Frankfurt do it.
Yeah, I think it will be Jonathan Burkhardt because he has the potential to. I would not say to be the.
Elia Wahi looked very exciting 2 seasons ago. Before he went to Marseille, it was at Lens.
Yeah,
right?
He is, but he has injuries. I know his behavior can be sometimes problematic. He has to. He's a young player, but he has to find his regularity at the highest level because he's a good player with some qualities. He played at Montpellier, which was a team in difficulty over the last 3-4 seasons. He was one of their best player with Deji Savanier, who is an attacking midfielder. He scored a lot of goals, but he has to find his regularity. As you said, his Marseille 6 months were really bad, to be honest. So now I hope for him.
We're gonna have to plow on because we just spent 50 minutes, and this is meant to be an hour-long show.
Oh.
Everything, a lot to tackle in.
But Jonathan Burkhardt is a good addition.
Very, very, very good addition. Very exciting. Yeah. Okay, let's spin the wheel. Let's see what we got next time. Hopefully it won't be the same one twice. Okay, it's Serie A. Okay, well that's handy. Right, Serie A. So obviously Serie A, the Italian Serie A, for those who aren't familiar, is one of the most competitive leagues, one of the most exciting leagues in the world. I think it's 4 different winners in the last 4 different winners in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
which is fantastic. But let's look at the quick. I'm going to run through some transfers because we need to speed this up. We'll start with AC Milan. This is quite an interesting one. So they have sold Reinders to Manchester City, their midfielder. They've sold Thiaw to Newcastle United and Kalulu to Juventus. So that's 2 of their starting centre backs. And they also lost Hernandez to Al Hilal, their left backs. Obviously, their defensive structure being completely torn apart. In comes Luka Modric, Samuel Ricci from Torino. They've brought in Stupinian as left back. They've brought in De Winter as a centre back. But I suppose the big thing with AC Milan, they've brought in new left back, new centre back, 3 new midfielders, but they seem very light up front. So their only striker currently is Jimenez.
Yeah. And I think it can be the
manager in Massimo Allegri.
Yeah, I think it can be the season it should be the season for Rafael Leao to step up his game because, as you said, they can be maybe a little bit light. So yeah, they need absolutely.
Considering how Allegri likes to focus on a defensive structure, and then he loves his 1-0s. Would a player like Rafael Leao suit him? Simply because obviously having that defensive solidity needs discipline, and Leao's not really that kind of player.
Yeah, no, he's a kind of fantastic player.
Maybe we're wrong. Maybe the fact that they only have one striker, perhaps that allows more freedom for the wide guys. Looking at Inter, now obviously Inter's problem was obvious at the end of the Champions League final when they were destroyed Paris Saint-Germain. The aging squad. We need to mention that every single time we do a show, by the way, the 5-0. So they have released a couple of players, but in come Sucic in midfield. They've brought in Benny. Diouf, yes.
Yeah.
Benny and Luis Enrique from Marseille. But the big thing is Sucic, 21, Diouf, 22, Benny, 21, Luis Enrique, 23. So a real focus on early 20s and nearly all of them like exciting attacking players. So it looks like they're going to have sort of more experience at the back and in midfield, but the attack is going to be youthful.
They also took Zalewski from Roma, which is also a young player. So yeah, they want to revitalize the team. I think maybe having paid more than 20 million for Luis Enrique is, like I said, for Luis Diaz, maybe overpriced. But Andy Diouf is a real good player, midfielder, box to box. He needs to improve in his capacity to make the last choice in the last third of the opponent pitch. But it's a really good player. I don't really know about Boni and Susic, but I think it's an interesting
exciting.
transfer window.
I would say it's a strange, just because obviously their attack, their strikers rather weren't exactly the weak point. They did release Arnautovic, but he was the fourth choice behind Lautaro Martinez, Thuram, and then Taremi. Although Taremi didn't have a great season last year, so it does feel like they've got four strikers, which if they play a two-striker system makes sense. And of course, this is Christian Chivu's start proper. Isn't now he's had a pre-season. A lot of new managers in Serie A. Let's go on to the defending champions, Napoli. The only one without a new manager, Antonio Conte, sticking around. The only major sale, Osimhen, his transfer to Galatasaray was confirmed. In comes, and this is an impressive list. In comes Milinkovic-Savic in goal, so not that Milinkovic-Savic. They're bringing in Miguel Gutierrez from Girona. He was really exciting left back a couple of seasons ago. See if he can rediscover form. Of course, they're bringing in Kevin De Bruyne. Noah Lang. Noah Lang's an interesting choice coming from PSV. As finally as a replacement for Kvaratskhelia. That'd be a really interesting one. How do you feel about Napoli?
I think it's an extraordinary transfer window for them. Bringing Kevin De Bruyne
in profit as well, considering they won the Serie A. They also sold Raspadori to Atletico Madrid, so they've made about 125 million euros, and they've only spent 107, I think it is. So they probably have room to purchase another, which is just as well, because they do look light. This is a theme. They do look light in attack, because Lukaku was obviously their starting striker last season, but he is injured, and he will be injured till about December. They have brought in Lorenzo Luca on loan from Udinese, although I think that's a loan with an obligation to buy. You do wonder if that would be enough as a striker, so perhaps another striker coming in. But I suppose the question is, do you see Napoli, because obviously Antonio Conte doesn't do very well in Europe, but are there any teams in a good place to challenge Napoli for the title? Because Napoli look like they are stronger than last year.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I don't have any doubt on Napoli's ability to produce a good season. I don't know to which extent if they will win the title, but I don't think their opponents really reinforced themselves during the Mercato period. I have to say that I'm a really fan of the Luka Modric AC Milan connection and the Kevin De Bruyne Napoli's one, because that's transfers for romantic people, in my opinion. It just fits really nice. It's so class for Luka Modric to finish your career at a club like AC Milan. It's footballer heritage.
It's his career. He's 40. He might play forever. Quick look at Juventus, who have also been splashed at the cash. They brought in João Mario. from Porto as the right back. They also confirmed the signing of Francisco Conceição from Porto. They've brought in Nico Gonzalez. Also the centre back Kalulu. They also had to confirm the signing of Lloyd Kelly from Newcastle. That was a strange one. But I suppose the big one, the big coup, was Jonathan David. They managed to sign him for free from Lille, which it does look like he'll be playing ahead of Vlahovic up front. Obviously, you watched a fair bit of Jonathan David playing for Lille. Do you think he's the right fit for Igor Tudor's Juventus?
Yeah, I think he will succeed at Juventus. Juventus wanted to the Vlahovic case is, I think, will be one of the main during the last last week of the transfer window, because I don't think they want him to stay at Juventus. They try to find him a way out. Jonathan David was a real market opportunity because he's 25. He's an international. He bagged a lot of goals with Lille. He has his technical. Is deadly in front of the cage. He was free, which is something really important for on the 9 market. It's quite rare to have a striker that quality for free.
And that age as well.
Yeah, and that edge, and I think it's a good fit for him and for Juventus, because he leave Lille, with whom he succeeded in Ligue 1, played the Champions League. Now he goes to another step in his career, so he needs to confirm and maybe just target a bigger club for the years to come.
Welcome for all those who are only just tuned in. I've noticed the little viewing figure has been going up. Thank you all those joining us for the European Soccer Show, its first ever episode. You're joining myself, Daniel Hames, and Léo Aschi. We are wearing matching outfits because we decided to start a cult. We're going to move on to the next league. Actually, no, before we do, we'll talk about favourites for title. So outside of Napoli are the favourites. I suppose much like last year, Inter look like the closest challengers, just because now that Napoli are in the Champions League, you wonder they need to get used to that, because last season they didn't have any European football. So that's a squad that has to therefore get used to that calendar, whereas Inter are used to it and have that squad depth. Do you think that might be enough for Inter to get back ahead of Napoli, or do you think it's Napoli favourites?
To be honest, I think one team will be, we didn't talk about that team, but Roma will be one to watch in the Serie A. I don't think they will win the title, but I think they will be on the podium.
Well, they had, sorry to jump in, but they had an incredible end to the season, because they started so poorly last season.
And now
went through 2 managers in the first 3 months, and then ended with Claudio Ranieri getting them to 5th, I think it was, or 6th. Which is a great turnaround. So they do have momentum, and now they have Gasperini. They managed to sign. Finally, someone got Gasperini away from Atalanta.
Yeah, it's strange to see him on another bench than Atalanta, but I think Roma will be a team to watch this season. They recruited...
if we're going to talk about ones to watch, I'm going to put my hat on Como.
Of course.
Como, for those who don't know, Como do have incredibly wealthy owners. They also have one of the most beautiful pitches, like locations to watch football. So it is very stylish. But they do have a lot of money to spend on their squad, and it's looking very nice. They have a young Argentine. Is it Nico Paz?
Nico Paz,
They signed for Real Madrid as their like number 10, and he looks fantastic. He's already courting interest from like Tottenham Hotspur, back to Real Madrid potentially. But you're one to watch as a surprise would be Roma.
Yeah, I think Roma, they recruited in a clever way with Nella Elainaoui coming from France, the loan of Evan Ferguson, Leon Bailey.
They're good loans.
They have a good team, in my opinion.
One surprise that might happen in a negative would be Atalanta. Atalanta have been overperforming for so long, so consistently under Gasperini. You would feel that, first of all, there's an inevitable drop, but they also, I do question they appointed Ivan Juric. For those of you who don't know Ivan Juric, he actually got hired by Roma at the start of last season to replace Daniel De Rossi. He was only in charge for, I think it was about 8 games, something like that, before he was fired as well. And then he went to Southampton, where he lost nearly every single game. So, I mean, it's only been 12 months, but it's been a miserable 12 months for Juric. And you do wonder if he can snap out of it quickly. Because Atalanta, I used to play in quite an aggressive front foot style of football, whereas Juric has been last 12 months and before he was at Torino, I think. More of a backs against the walls kind of situation. Right, so we're playing forward now. We are getting quicker. Next up, we'll skip La Liga for now because we should have Pedro coming on at some point and he can talk about that. Let's quickly go to Ligue 1. I suppose the big question, from what I can tell, there haven't been that many transfers.
No.
The big one's been, of course, Paris Saint-Germain only bringing in, is it Chevalier in goal and Zebani from Bournemouth as a centre-back. What are some other notable transfers that you've seen in the French league? Obviously, Marseille have had a couple of very interesting ones. Monaco brought in Paul Pogba.
I think for Monaco it's more bettings because they bought Paul Pogba, Ansu Fati. These are players really interesting. We all know that. Paul Pogba at 100% of his ability. I think he would be the best midfielder in the world today. But yeah, they also brought Eric Dyer from Bayern Munich. Monaco is a strange club as always. You have a lot of expectations for them, and they always deceive this expectation. You mentioned Marseille, which had a buzzy transfer window. They bought a lot. There was the Jonathan Rowe, Adrien Rabiot's case. They want to sign some more players like Dani Ceballos, for example, from Real Madrid, Joel Ordóñez from Club Brugge. So they have money. They are building a really strong squad. We can also talk about Strasbourg, which had they recruited for 17 players so far. So it's exceptional, spending more than 100 million of euros.
From Chelsea.
7 or 8, I think. That's the problem with multiple ownership. I will have a word for instance for Lyon because they had a real interesting transfer window given they weren't assured to stay in Ligue 1 1 month ago. From the first two match days, Tyler Morton seems to be an incredible player, really.
He wasn't at the under 21 European Championship this
he won it. Now the main question for Lyon, I think, for this last week will be to know if they will keep Malik Fofana on the left wing because they need to find 40 million euros by June 2026. So will they take the risk to keep him and him to get injured for a long time? If I were if I were the owner of the club, I would keep him, of course, because I think his season, not only on a sportive aspect, but I think his season will make him explode in Europe. So with the World Cup next year, I think he will get some offers, of course, and more than 40 million.
Really interesting. You mentioned the World Cup next year because, of course, a lot of players are desperate for moves just for game time to try and get themselves into their respective national squads. I suppose it's such an obvious question. It's going to be the same thing I asked for the Bundesliga. Is there a title race possibility, or is this going to be another thing like last year where Paris Saint-Germain have won it by February? Is there any team that has the capacity to actually go an entire season within touching distance?
Given Lyon have won their 2 first game of the season, we can say that There are just 32
Considering, sorry, I'm
finals
going to
left.
interrupt. Considering very recently you were almost weeping at the fact that your beloved Lyon were relegated, and now you've gone from that to then winning the league. It's an incredible turnaround of pessimism and
Oh,
optimism.
that would be for sure. But no, to be joke aside, I don't think some team can beat Paris. They are just too strong for any other opponent. But Liga is, as I said in other shows, Liga is really interesting to watch. If you have never watched the championship, you should pay attention to that because there are a lot of young talented player. I'm sure we will see in the Premier League in 2 or 3 years. On Sunday there is the Olympico between Lyon and Marseille. It will be a real tough game. So yeah, I think it will be a good ad for the championship. But yeah, just take a look at the league. You could be surprised.
Lovely. Okay. Who are the ones to watch surprise-wise? Strasbourg surprised us all last time, I think. Are there any other surprise packages? Who do you think will have the ones to watch, whether positively or negatively? Do you think there's a team that actually might plummet down the table?
If I have to put the fan aspect, I think Lyon will be one to watch because Paulo Fonseca's system, what he tries to do and what he does with the team is quite interesting, to be honest.
In the dugout now, isn't he?
Sorry?
Fonseca's back in the dugout. He was banned for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about Strasbourg.
It was a weird year for Lyon.
Don't talk about that, please. You were talking about Strasbourg. I think there will be ones to watch because yeah, they are an exciting team. Liam Rosenior is a young and talented coach too. Marseille, of course, because it's Marseille, and Paris because they are just Paris.
Well, let's move on to the Premier League. I mean, I'm not sure I want to go through it because the Premier League is so much money, and that's most years. This year, there's been an disgusting amount of money spent by the biggest teams. I suppose I'll try and sum it up by saying what happened last season was very, very interesting. You had teams like Spurs and Man United finishing 17th and 15th in the league, having awful seasons. And then you had teams like Newcastle United qualifying for the Champions League. You still have Aston Villa in the top 6. You had Nottingham Forest in the top 7. Crystal Palace qualifying for Europe as well through winning the FA Cup. And so you had what has been described as like the middle classes of teams, the ones below the big 6, actually making a significant impact on the top end of the table. And it does feel that this summer, all the top 6 have just sort of thrown their weight around like, well, we can't let that happen again, and just thrown hundreds of millions of euros. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly go through some, but not all by any means, because it's just too much. But yes, very quickly, let's look at Arsenal. Arsenal, you'd be shocked to learn, have spent the most net. So in regards to spending, so net obviously is after the money you've spent reduced by the money you bring in. Arsenal have barely brought any money, so therefore they've spent the biggest net spend across the entire of Europe. They spent 293 million euros. They've brought a striker in Gyökeres. They brought in Zubimendi. They brought in Eberechi Eze. They brought in Noni Madueke. They brought in Mosquera. They brought another centre back from Valencia. They're now in talks. There's a big story going around them talking to Ngapié from Leverkusen.
Yeah.
Another centre back. Why not? They can have all of the defenders. Chelsea, they signed basically a small army, as they always do, but that's like João Pedro, Jamie Gittins, Jarell Hato from Ajax. I think that's a terrific signing. Liam Delap, Esteval. Oh my goodness, I'm running out. Mamadou Sarr, Kennedy Page. Yes, but to be fair, I would say this might shock you, but Chelsea, their net spend's about 25 million, 20 million pounds, which blows.
Okay.
You realise they've also sold Kepa, Humphreys was a big sale. They've sold
Felix,
Ronaldo Vega, Dewsbury Hall, João
yeah.
Felix. They've sold. They're about to sell Ugo Chukwu to Dortmund. They've a lot of sales, and a lot of them are
Yeah.
youth products. Armando Broja to Fulham. So they've brought in
Just to have a word on Chelsea,
256 million euros.
yeah, we always say that Chelsea spend a lot of money, but they are good sellers in my opinion, and that's one
Let's
aspect.
not put like they've also spent a dirty amount of money over the last couple
Yeah,
of
of course, but we never put the light on the fact that they know how to sell their players.
Much like some Manchester City's academy, much the same. They tend to sell quite early and make a good amount of
Yeah,
money. If there's no clear pathway or whatever, look at Cole Palmer. He couldn't break in. It does look like they sold him for £40 million, which obviously now looks like nothing. But at the time, he had no Premier League experience.
yeah,
So yeah, as an academy, you'd probably put Chelsea and Manchester City in a similar bracket to Barcelona, although obviously Barcelona don't tend to sell their youth players. They need them because they because they keep losing players left, right, and centre. Anyway, that's Chelsea. Manchester City have also spent quite a bit of money, bringing in Trafford back to the club. They brought in Ait Nouri as a left back. They brought in Cherki, who you're very excited to watch now from
yeah.
your beloved Lyon. So sorry. They brought in Rangers. But they've also made some sales. Obviously, let go of Kevin De Bruyne, but a couple of loans out, and one's Jack Grealish, £100 million player only 3 seasons ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
But he's now on loan at Everton. But that could be an exciting one.
Yeah,
Quickly on to Man
and it
United. Man
seems.
United also have sold nobody. They can't seem to sell anybody because they're on disgusting wages. They have loaned Rashford to Barcelona. That's interesting. But they've brought in. Sorry, it's laughed. So throughout the entire of last season, one of the reasons they were so dog awful was because they had no midfield, essentially, and teams could pass through the midfield. And what's the answer? Purchased no midfielders. They bought an entire front line of incredibly exciting Mateus Cunha, Brian Mbumo, and Benjamin Šeško.
And do you know what is
230
funny
million.
with Manchester United? Is that Sir Alex Ferguson used to say that a good attack can make you win games, but a good defense makes you win title, and they don't apply that at all.
But I think it's one of those things. They have spent 230 million euros and they've sold nobody, and they are quite in a very difficult financial position. Which, of course, if you've read the news in the last sort of 12 months, they've tried to fix by firing a third of their entire
Yeah,
staff, by cutting staff meals for free, by that kind of thing.
yeah, but they
They even
spend more than
cancelled the staff barbecue, didn't they, or something like that? Um,
that's so sad.
yeah, but they have to
And
sell. They have to sell, but they
yeah,
just can't because obviously all their players are on such high wages. Liverpool. I mean, we mentioned before that Leverkusen had one of the biggest turnovers in squad. Liverpool, not dissimilar. They have spent 340 million euros, but brought in 220. It's astonishing.
yeah,
So out go Kelleher, the goalkeeper. Out goes Trent Alexander-Arnold. Out goes Jarell Quansah, in those two in defence. Out goes Ben Doak, right winger they bought from Celtic for 400 grand. Out goes Luis Diaz. Out goes Darwin Nunez. So that's a lot of outgoings. A lot of them youth products as well. So big money there. And in comes exciting centre back from Parma, Leone. But in comes Frimpong. In comes Kirkez at the left back. Verts. In comes Ekitike. And they're still in the market for a centre back and potentially Alexander Isak from Newcastle United. What a turnaround! I mean, I'm going to stop there. I'm not even going to bring in Spurs and Newcastle. But that is an astonishing amount of money that the top of the Premier League has spent. I suppose now we can talk about football. But talk about Liverpool defending champions. Last season, I think everybody was surprised the fact that they won the title because Arne Slot, obviously first season in charge, but also he made no first team signings, which is, I think it's unheard of for a manager to win a title with no signings. It does feel like this season might be the transition season that we expected last year. Does that make
yeah,
sense? Considering
yeah.
just the sheer number of players leaving and coming in, there's bound to be some transition, no?
But it's cool to have the ability to make a transition season by spending more than 300 million euros. It's easier, I think, to make that transition. And as you mentioned, we don't talk about the fact that they could sign Isaac for 100 and I don't know, I don't really know,
Newcastle won.
150
Yeah,
million or something
Newcastle
like that.
United are
Yeah,
quoting 150 million pounds, which is
yeah,
more like 170 euros, 100 million.
yeah.
Yeah, it's scary, but
But
he is very
But now
good.
they have they have a lot of pressure, I think, on their back because when you spend so much money, you need to have results. And another team with a lot of pressure, in my opinion, and much more for a trainer, a manager, sorry, it's Arsenal because I don't have any doubt about the ability to Mikel Arteta to make his teams play well, but there will be a point when their directors will want to have results because Arsenal they can't be a golden second, a golden runner-up for eternity. Yeah, and they spend a lot of money this summer. They spent you said they spent on Gyökeres.
293
Yeah,
million euros.
yeah, Zubimendi, Gyökeres, Eze, Madueke. It's a lot of money. So he will. I think he will have a lot of pressure on his back. He will need to win something, and not. I respect the League Cup, but not just a League Cup of or an FA Cup. He will need to compete for the Premier League title,
To be
of
fair, they
course.
did get to as well as finishing second in the Premier League for the last 3 seasons. They also got to the semi-final of the Champions League last
Yeah,
season.
true.
Which is significant in itself, especially because they hadn't got that far for quite a while. Yeah, I suppose in regards to title favourites and teams to watch out for before we finally get round to results, I think we've done well to sort of get to
Yeah,
cut the transfer talk to near 45 minutes. What's really exciting is that there's a lot of narrative in this country around there being a 4-team title race because Liverpool looked like they surprised everybody last season. And if you sort of drop their level, and you think about Manchester City, are they favourites? Well, actually, they look strong, but they have the same vulnerabilities they had last year, and they haven't fixed them with signings. They still like Ait Nouri's an attacking left back. That's not going to fix the gaping hole down the fullback zones. They're not. And also, teams are now playing more direct against them, and they're looking vulnerable. Essentially, looks like the game plan doesn't work without Rodri, and Rodri, though he played in the most recent set of fixtures, he can't be guaranteed to start every single game. So Manchester City look vulnerable. Liverpool look vulnerable and have started the season defensively very shaky. Chelsea, they look obviously the world champions now, world champions Chelsea, which we have to refer to them legally.
with their big badge on
Big
the.
gold badge. Yeah,
It's incredible.
Obviously they're looking very strong, but also they are a team on the rise. They're a young team, and you do wonder if they would have the consistency to last the whole season, and they certainly don't have the experience as the other teams do. And then you look at Arsenal, who. So at the start, I made the point that I personally think Arsenal are favourites, but that's because they're the only team without a significant turnaround. And without, like last season, they didn't look vulnerable. They looked like they were lacking a creative punch at times, but they looked defensively solid basically the entire season. Whereas now they have a couple of more, Madueke offers support to Saka. You've now got Gyökeres as like this battering ram up front. And also, Arsenal haven't had to get rid of anybody significant. So it does feel like they are the one team that sounds constant. They sound the same team as last year as this season. And they seem to be the only ones. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. But we saw that they have already a lot of injured players. Arsenal, I think Odegaard is injured. Saka is too, and there
Yeah,
is a
apparently they're not so bad as they
yeah,
seem. Apparently
yeah,
that's
but
just knocks.
yeah, but I think my pick for the favorite to win, they are obviously Arsenal and Liverpool. You will have to watch Manchester City, even if I think maybe are at the end of a cycle with Guardiola, not the team, because they recruited young player. And we talked about how clubs spent money, but I think Manchester City, just for Ryan Cherky, Tidiane Reinders, and who is the third? The third I want Ryan Ait Nouri, to
Yeah.
spend about 100 million for these three players. It's not overpriced. It's really good deals for Manchester City, and I look forward to watch them this season too.
Also linked to Donnarumma now
Yeah,
that Paris
yeah,
Saint-Germain are trying to force him out, which would be interesting because, of course, they just bought James Trafford back to Manchester City. So it would be quite strange to buy a goalkeeper and then another goalkeeper. But I think that's also providing that Edison leaves and departs. Right, I think I've just got a message from Pedro. I'm not convinced he's to be joining us. So let's
yeah.
quickly look at La Liga.
La Liga.
So La Liga, transfer-wise, I mean, for Real Madrid, all the business was done before the Club World Cup. So I don't think there's that much to go over. Obviously, you got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dean Huijsen as a new centre back. You do have the addition of Carrasco from Benfica. That looks like an interesting option. And of course, they confirmed the signing of Mastantuono from River. Now, looking at Barca, the defending champions, obviously their financial situation complicates matters. They brought in Joan Garcia from Espanyol in goal. They brought in football manager wonder kid Rooney Baji from Copenhagen. Great deal.
For,
I think it was into his last year though, so it was
yeah.
again nominal fee. And of course, they brought in Marcus Rashford on loan. I suppose the question I'm going to ask is, if Barca defend their title, is that rated as a bigger deal as it is, considering how the lack of transfer activity they are able to do? Do you think them being able to defend their title would be as big as it sounds?
I don't think, because there was not a lot of signings, but there weren't a lot of exit this summer. They lose Inigo Martinez, of course, going to Al Nasser, but except from him, this is the same team than last.
Like to get rid of ter Stegen, which sounds insane.
Yeah,
but
yeah, but yeah, I think it would not be a real fit, even if competing with Real Madrid and Atletico, who recruited a lot, also is always difficult. But in my opinion, they recruited cleverly, because Marcus Rashford to Barcelona is in my opinion, one of the most exciting deal of this transfer window. An Englishman in Barcelona, this kind of player is in his prime, because he's only 27. He has a release clause.
A couple of bad seasons.
Yeah, but I think working with Flick in another context than in England will be really good for him. And we just have to notice that he has a 30 million euros release clause, and that could be one of the best deal in the recent years for Barcelona, who we know love to spend a lot for players, maybe a bit overrated. So 30 million euros for Marcus Rashford, if he does good, would be really, really good.
Back to like Man United, when they signed Jadon Sancho, I think that was for
85 million, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was initially 72, and it goes up to 85 million euros, something like that. And obviously Rashford is a youth academy product, but Rashford and Sancho were two of the highest earners at Man United. Sancho now looks like they're happy to sell him for about 25 million pounds and take like a 60 million loss. Rashford, they're looking at 30. Like it was only, I think it was good 2 seasons ago, after obviously he had that incredible season when Man United finished third. Rashford was valued at about 120 million pounds.
I remember I remember the time when they beat PSG in the Champions League with the last minute penalty, and B team with all that Tai Chong and everything.
Yeah.
This was incredible. I think Marcus Rashford is an exceptional player. He had struggled for 2 years now, but
England wants him to do well as well. He's such a good person, and obviously he's very not politically active, but he obviously did a lot of work during lockdown about trying to feed school kids and things like that. An incredible. I think everybody's rooting for him to refine his form. But to go back to Liga, we're going to go to the biggest spenders in La Liga, Atletico Madrid. They have spent 175 million euros. They've brought in Alex Bonet from Villarreal. They've brought in David Hancho from Feyenoord. They've brought in Johnny Cardoso from Betis. That's an interesting signing. Thiago Almeida from Botafogo and Raspadori from Napoli. Now, I am going to, because obviously I like asking you questions, little quiz questions, assuming that you haven't seen the article that I'm referring to. There was a list published about a week ago of the list of managers who have spent the most money since last winning a major trophy.
Okay. No, I don't.
Okay. So.
In La Liga or in Europe?
Across the whole world. So a list of managers who have spent the most money since their last major trophy win. I want you to name me the top 3. But the trick is to try and get the top 3.
I'm sorry for Diego Simeone, but I'm pretty sure he's in the top 3.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, you've also got the strange thing because obviously they are very much the way that people describe it is like in Spain, it's a 2.5 horse race. So Atletico Madrid might, and they have won 2 titles in the last 12, 13 years, which again is remarkable considering who they're competing against. But they have also spent an astonishing amount, especially in the last 3 seasons as they tried to change tactical identity. But they have spent a lot of money again.
Because their last title is from 2020, La Liga title. Yeah.
It's up front. So Simeone has spent 535 million euros since his last trophy.
Okay, but for the two of us, that's a real tough question, to be honest.
Number 4, it shows a bit of distortion as well. Number 4 is Guardiola, and he's only had 1 season without winning anything, but also speaks volumes about how much Manchester City spent this summer and the previous summer, which was a lot.
Yeah. Is Erik ten Hag in the...
Is... Good shout, but he's 6th. Because he also won because he won the FA Cup, he won the League Cup.
Okay, so even domestic cups are counting. Okay.
Trophies.
Just a trophy. No, I will not say Potter with Chelsea because he gets sacked.
I think so. I think that's...
Yeah, Carlo Ancelotti, of course not.
Slot is number 7, but obviously that's just the amount of money they've spent this summer.
Yeah. I don't have any idea of the...
Clue, both of them are in the Premier League, and one of them is absolutely not a title challenger.
Eddie O, maybe? Is Eddie O in the third? With Newcastle, Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe, sorry.
Howe, sorry.
No, not he's not even in the top 20. Okay. Nowhere near. Obviously, but of course they won the League Cup last season, which is a major trophy.
Yeah, that's true, of course. Chelsea. So maybe
because they won the
Club World Cup, yeah.
And the Club World Cup, yes, of course.
Yeah, so in the Premier League, Unai Emery.
3. So Unai Emery, of course, the last trophy won was the Europa League with Villarreal. And since being at Aston Villa, they have spent 438 million euros.
Yeah.
But the scary thing is,
is it the first or the third?
I'll give you another clue. Number 1 has spent almost double the amount of Simeone.
In the Premier League?
Winning any trophy, this person has spent €1 billion.
Don't tell me it's Mikel Arteta.
It's Mikel Arteta. Yes, Arsenal spent €1 billion since they won the FA Cup 5 seasons ago.
Okay. Sorry, Mikel, but it's a recall of what I've said earlier. You have to win things now.
Big pressure. Yes. So, sorry, what brought me onto that was Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid being the biggest spenders in La Liga. I was hoping to ask this question of Pedro, but obviously you expect Real Madrid. Real Madrid are going through a transition of their own. They've got a new manager in Xabi Alonso. Barca are Barcelona. They could be brilliant. They could be chaotic. Do you see this being an opportunity for Atletico Madrid, considering it feels like Real Madrid may have dropped Barcelona in a situation where they can't bring new players in, or very many? Yeah, do you think the standard of Real Madrid and Barca has dropped from last year?
I don't think.
Again, it's a transition because it's Xabi Alonso. He's playing a completely different system.
But no, I don't think. I think the title will be decided between Barcelona and Real Madrid, as it is always the case. And Atletico, because Atletico also are in a transition phase because they recruited a lot of players, so it takes time for players to adapt to a new championship, to a new manager, new tactical system. And we know that Simeone's one is demanding in terms of physical abilities, efforts, and everything. So I think if I had to make a top three, I think it would be Barcelona, then Real Madrid, and Atletico.
I actually forgot to say one to watch in the Premier League. The team I would suggest to watch out for, because I think what's going to be very interesting, as well as having a big title race with several teams, I think the relegation battle is going to be very interesting because because for the last 2 seasons in the Premier League, the same 3 teams that came up have gone straight back down, and everybody's hoping for more than one to stay up, just because otherwise it gets stale, it gets boring. But there are some vulnerable teams in the Premier League. Wolves are looking vulnerable. Brentford have lost their manager, their goalkeeper, their captain, their their best striker, as well as their next best striker is currently trying to force a move to Newcastle. So they've been complete, and the manager. So they've been completely gutted as well. So you think that they're in a vulnerable spot. So Wolves, Brentford, but my big one to watch out for is West Ham. West Ham have been falling fast. Like last season was a miserable experience, and season started. Similarly, La Liga, I would say something to watch out for would be teams like Sevilla. I have a sneaky suspicion Girona might go down. So Sevilla and Girona only escaped relegation last season by a single point, which would have been catastrophic for Sevilla. So you do sort of hope that Sevilla can rebuild. But Girona, since finishing in the Champions League places season before last,
they were third in the league.
And then went from third to 17th, 16th.
Yeah, that's
like I say, 1 point ahead of
United.
And they look like, and they've had a couple of other key players taken from them. So you do worry about Girona. Right, this has been going. We've been on this for an hour. Shall we quickly go over the weekend results, or shall we just try and pack in 2 lots of results next week?
Yeah, we can.
Right.
And just to say just one word, I think in the Premier League, I will watch a lot of Everton and Sunderland games because they are exciting project, in my opinion.
We've been on so long, my earphones are dying. So, right, quickly, since we're on La Liga, let's look like La Liga. So, La Liga, we've had 2 sets of results where we've had Barca beat Nijmegen Mallorca 3-0. They came from 2 goals behind to beat Levante 3-2. That was a big result. Yeah. Real Madrid have played 1-2, 1-0, 3-0. Nice and easy, although they've had a kind set of fixtures. Perhaps the ones to talk about are Atletico Madrid. Despite being the biggest spenders, they've only got 1 point after 2 games. They lost 2-1 at home to Espanyol, and they drew 1-1 against Elche. So that's concerning, isn't it? Actually, the fact that they've had a slow start to the campaign, and yet the two teams that they need to really stick to have got maximum points.
Yeah, and there were disappointing results. I think, especially the loss at home against Espanyol. So yeah, that's also a reason why I put them in third places, because I think, like Manchester City, Diego Simeone is maybe at the end of a cycle of his training career. So yeah, I will look forward them this season, but I don't think they will go for the title.
Also, top of the table though. Top of the table.
Villarreal, is it?
They beat Real Oviedo 2-0, but then they beat Girona 5-0. Another reason to watch out for Girona. They've had a couple of bad starts. But yeah, 5-0 against Girona. Villarreal, excellent starts to the season.
And with Tadjane Buchanan already scored 3 goals in the league. So I like this player. I hope he will succeed at Villarreal, who has been struggling also for mounts. Because if you remember, they were in the Champions League quarterfinals not so long ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That was still Emery at the time, wasn't it? After the
Yeah.
Europa League win.
Yeah.
And they lost to Liverpool. You're absolutely right. Okay, you know what? Since Pedro's not here, we'll park La Liga there. That was some fixtures from from La Liga. Let's have a quick look at. You tell you what. Let's look at the leagues that have just started. So the Bundesliga,
yeah.
Serie A. They played their first fixtures of the season. So the Bundesliga, I suppose the first game of the season was the big one. So Bayern Munich against Red Bull Leipzig. Sorry, RB Leipzig. It's not Red Bull in Germany. 6-0 to Bayern, a hat trick for Harry Kane. I mean, what the hell? What a result!
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned about Leipzig, because we have to recall that they aren't qualified for any European Cup this season. They were overwhelmed against Bayern Munich this weekend. And as I was saying at the really early beginning of the show, Bayern looked really impressive during the game, really dominating. Harry Kane is still my favorite number 9 in the world. He showed it against Leipzig, scoring a hat trick, just producing efforts from the first to the last minutes. Is a link to all of his peers. He's really, really, really interesting. And the other thing is that Dortmund already shocked in the Bundesliga this weekend. They were 3-1 up, and then at the end of the game, it was 3-3 against St. Pauli.
So Dortmund defender got a red card in the 85th minute for dragging back a player in the box. And then St. Pauli equalised with just a minute to go. So that was an incredible collapse from Dortmund.
And Leverkusen lost.
Yes, I'm going to say the notable, and one of the reasons why we were talking earlier about not being much of a title race, just like the opening weekend, Bayer Leverkusen at home lost 2-1 to Hoffenheim. That was a real kick, wasn't it? Like that was a bad result.
Yeah, it is. We can notice that I think it was Jarel Kwanzaa who scored the only Leverkusen goal, but it's not. Offenheim won with most shot in the game, most shot on target in the game. They didn't have the possession, but we didn't expect them to have the possession away at Leverkusen. So it's not a robbery, I think, this victory, and that's maybe the most interesting in this match.
Of note from the Bundesliga, we again mentioned Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt won 4-1 against Werder Bremen. And that's a decent Werder. Werder finished 8th, I think, last season.
Yeah.
And then their manager, Oli Werner, who managed Werder, went to go and manage RB Leipzig, and it's not started well for him. Right. Park the Bundesliga there. We'll go to Serie A, their first weekend. Oh, this was a fun. I mean, again, Serie A is a very fun league for unpredictability, but the opening set of results are fantastic. So, first of all, Napoli won 2-0 away at Sassuolo with goals from McTominay, the player of the year last year for Serie A, and a goal for Kevin De Bruyne on his debut, although fortuitous. It was a free kick that just no one contacted with. Other notable ones, Inter won 5-0 against Torino. That was terrifying. Again, like looking at their attacking potency. Thuram with goals, Martinez, their pressing was great. Even a debut goal for Boni, I think. So I'm going to rattle through them just because obviously we've been recording for ages, so a few more.
Problem.
I think the big shock of the weekend, AC Milan 1, Cremonese 2. AC Milan
and
losing
what a goal from Cremonese.
For anybody watching or listening, please, if you can, go on YouTube, the Cremonese winning goal, an overhead kick from about 16, 18 yards, something like that. Oh, it was nice.
Yeah, already a goal of the season contender, for sure. And
beautiful
as it is for Como's Nico Paz free kick against Lazio, just to make a link between the games.
Como then. So yes, Nico Paz goal scored and assisted in a Como 2 Lazio 0 result. Como looked really good in that match. And again, another reason to sort of look out for them. Lazio were a good team last season. So the fact that Como are threatening, because of course Italy have like a top 6 as well, that quite often sort of fight between themselves for European places. The fact that Como are trying to fight their way into there is it's ambitious, but it also it looks good.
Really. And Juventus beat Parma.
Juve, I was going to say, yes. So Juventus 2, Parma 0. So Juventus were fairly dominant, but they're quite fortunate. They were 1-0 up and then had a red card quite late in like the 70th something minute. So they could have tripped themselves up, but they did sort of hold on, and Vlahovic scored a late goal. So 2-0. Juve, Roma won on Gasparini's debut in charge. So they won 1-0 against Bologna. Atalanta were losing for a while against Pisa at home to Pisa. So 1-1 between Atalanta and Pisa. It's again Serie A. It's going to be fun, isn't it? It's going to be unpredictable, and like say with teams like Como trying to break into the European places, you do see some vulnerabilities again, especially teams like AC Milan. AC Milan could be like, where did they finish last year? Were they finished 7th?
Yeah, even 8th, no?
8th. That's right. They missed out on Europe, didn't they? Yeah, so AC Milan not in Europe is a big thing.
It's not anymore the 2007 AC Milan.
But like, look at say Napoli. So the 2 seasons that Napoli have won the title in the last 3 years, neither of those seasons were they in Europe, right? So that was like the opportunity to really push for the title, and it worked. It was brilliant. AC Milan, you'd think, because not in Europe. It's almost criminal for a team the size of AC Milan not to be in Europe at all, let alone the Champions League. But of course, it'd be like, right, we could just focus, new manager, new system, and it's hardly a vote of confidence losing at home to relegation candidates Cremonese. I think it's their first ever victory at the San Siro.
That's exceptional statistic, because winning at San Siro is always special, I think, for teams, especially for teams
spent that long at the top division, so they wouldn't play each other very often. That's the other thing. Right. Oh yeah. Let's leave Serie A there then. Where else are we going to go? So I guess we should let's go to Ligue 1, because of course we've had a couple of weeks of Ligue 1. So Paris Saint-Germain, as you mentioned, Paris Saint-Germain not at the top. They also didn't really have a preseason, did they? So the fact that they've had a 1-0 against Angers, they've had a 1-0 against Nantes. That's about as good as they need, right? Have the victories, not play well, but this is their preseason.
They are that strong that they can just make a rotation in the squad. Their first match away at Nantes, they put some youngsters on the pitch. Against Angers, they did too. It was not. They just put enough efforts to win these games. That's the point of that team, because they're just too strong. Their depth, it permitted Luis Enrique to throw Jonathan David, Lucas Chevalier and Ilya Zabarny to the deep end. So yeah, they played real good start of the season. If we just talk about points, because they are 6-on-6, as is Toulouse. Which is quite surprising because Toulouse is not set to play in the first half of the table. Lyon too, because they won at Lens, which was a great and interesting victory, because winning at Bollaert away is never easy. Lens is a really good team. They won
to Metz as well, didn't they?
Yeah, that's it, with a real good display again. Marseille won 5-2 against Paris FC.
Well, I was going to say, maybe the most impressive results are Marseille. So 1-0 victory away at Rouen, which is impressive. But yeah, a 5-2 victory against Paris FC, which itself is very impressive. The thing is, like, this is only 2 matches in, and Marseille, for those of you who haven't seen the story, but Marseille, have they just fired Jonathan Rowe and Adrien Rabiot, or are they selling them?
The thing is that last week, during the first game of the season, they lost to Rennes up at 11 men against 10 for 60 minutes. They lost after a last-minute goal from Rennes, and in the
to be clear, Rennes had the 10 men, not Marseille.
Sorry. And in the locker room, Adrien Rabiot and Jonathan Rowe had an altercation, a brawl, to be honest. And all the week long, there were presidents, agents, advocates talking to the press, saying it was the most violent thing I saw. It was his fault, not mine. And then Marseille released a press release saying, we put Adrien Rabiot and Jonathan Rowe on the transfer market. Jonathan Rowe was already on it. He went to Bologna. But now they want to let a chance for Rabiot to come back in the squad. So it's quite not well seen. And they needed this win against Paris FC, because in that club, crises are really easy to come. And they
like Marseille, the fact that I was going to say, like, surely Marseille, with a manager like De Zerbi, for example, surely they're too combustible to maintain any sort of consistent challenge for the title. Surely it's just as a mentality thing. They are so unpredictable.
Yeah, I think there is more pressure in Marseille than in Paris for players. And when I saw, because against Paris FC, Marseille went 2-0 up, and then it was 2-2 against a promoted team, playing away for the first time in 46 years in Ligue. So, and in the Velodrome, which is a 65k seated stadium. So when it was 2-2, I was asking myself, what can happen if they lose this game? And they were not good during this. And then they put some youngsters on the field and scored three more goals. So yeah, they get rid of that situation.
Right, well, let's pop over to the Premier League.
And if I just something I bet you have never seen. Rennes, so they went 10 men down against Marseille last week, and this weekend there were 9 men down to Lorient. They lost 4-0. But the most strange thing is that their first red card happened at the 6th minute of the game, the second at the 11th minute of the game.
They played with 9 men for like 80 minutes.
80 minutes, yeah.
So you're right. I don't think I've seen that. I mean,
it's
the strange thing I ever saw. I'm a Newcastle United fan, and I remember when 2 of our players fought each other and both got sent off. I remember that. But yeah. Okay, so Premier League results quickly, because we've had a couple of weekends. For those of you, again, to remind everybody watching, we are now releasing weekly roundups for each of the 5 major European leagues. You'll notice that mine is not out because I was waiting for the result between Newcastle United and Liverpool, which happened last night. A terrific game. So Liverpool, obviously last week they won 4-2 against Bournemouth. Last night they won 3-2 at Newcastle. An incredible game where Newcastle dominated the first half and Liverpool led through a deflected long strike from Gravenberch. Then Newcastle, Anthony Gordon got sent off towards the end of the first half. And then Liverpool scored 20 seconds after the restart. So Newcastle 2-0 down, 10 men, and then somehow equalised with only a couple of minutes to go. And were the ones pushing for a victory. And then Liverpool scored in the 100th minute through their 16-year-old debutant, Ngoma, which is an incredible story for him.
What a story.
Yeah, 16 years old, scoring a winner at St James's Park. But I tell you what, if you ever want to watch the highlights, listen to the noise at St James's Park. It was raucous because, of course, there's this big anti-Liverpool feeling at the minute because they feel like they're trying to steal Alexander Isak. I would hardly describe 120 million euros as a steal, but it's very anti-Liverpool feeling. So it was a really intense atmosphere last night. It was fantastic. But other things to acknowledge, Spurs have got 2 wins from 2. They beat Burnley 3-0 last time out. But this weekend, they beat Manchester City in Manchester 2-0. Brilliant. Thomas Frank in charge of Spurs might be one of the most signings of the season.
Impressive performance at Manchester City.
Really impressive performance. Arsenal followed up their 1-0 victory against Man United by defeating Leeds United 5-0. In that, you had the first goals for Gyökeres, but you also had the debut of Alfie Bowman. Who's Max Bowman? Sorry, there are 2 of them.
Max Bowman,
Max Bowman, who becomes the second youngest ever debutant behind Ethan Nwaneri, who's also playing for Arsenal now.
Created a penalty.
Yeah, he won a penalty, and he's got a long time. He's got about a year and a half to become the youngest ever scorer in the Premier League, or not just the Premier League, the top flight ever. He's ridiculously talented because Leo, you released, I think it was last week or the week before, an article about like the best youngsters we're most excited to watch this season. I didn't want to put Bowman because it was too obvious. Everybody's talking about him. Everybody's so excited for him. But I've got to say, if the first game is anything to go by, he is that impressive. The big thing is he's strong enough. He has this balance to him. So with the fact that not only did he win the penalty, but a couple of times he went round the fullback and was strong enough to hold him off, which you just don't see for teenagers.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
Yeah, we often say that a young player making his debut will shine through his eagerness of showing what he can do. But Doman had technical abilities to that thing, and it was quite impressive because it was against Leeds, even if they were 4-0 down. I saw the Leeds game against Everton last week. I was really impressed with the intensity they put in the game and everything. And yeah, seeing a 15-year-old player coming and play against experienced player, maybe more than 10 or 15 years older than him, it's incredible.
It really is. And quickly, a last couple before we have to end this. This is nearly as long as an actual football match. Also, you had West Ham have had a terrible start to the season, as have Wolves. Wolves have lost both of their opening matches, as have West Ham. West Ham lost 3-0 at Sunderland in the first week and followed that up by losing 5-1 against Chelsea at the London Stadium. Yes, West Ham have already shipped 8 goals in 2 games. It looks really bad. But the other big thing is that the 3 promoted sides have all won already. So all 3 of them have won by the second weekend, which is a huge thing because quite often, if it takes several fixtures, say if it gets to week 5, week 6, and you haven't won yet, you haven't got that momentum, and yet all of them have already registered. It's a big tick. And I think they've all been home victories as well, which is absolutely essential for promoted sides. Get the home form in order. Yeah, I suppose that's it. I suppose that's everything I need to do out. Obviously, Man United followed up their loss against Arsenal by drawing 1-1 at Fulham. So Man United only have 1 point. Newcastle United only have 1 point, although slightly different circumstances for Newcastle. who still don't have a senior striker in their squad now that Alexander Isak is refusing to play. Yeah, intense times. Right. For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to end there because, again, it's practically night time after we started. But just as a heads up, don't forget to watch out for the weekly roundup articles that myself, Leo, and other colleagues of ours will be releasing every single week, covering the 5 major European leagues as well as the Championship in England. But also there'll be this every single week. So the European Soccer Show will be here every single week, either Monday or Tuesday. And we'll be reviewing the results from the weekend. So it's never going to be this long again, I promise, unless like something intense happens. It's going to be just results, and it'll all be calmer, hopefully. But yes, thank you so much for joining us all. Make sure you look out for all of us, our socials, follow those, subscribe, etc., etc. Thank you so much for your time, Leo.
Thanks, Daniel. It was a pleasure. And thanks to everyone. I can see we are more than 130. So thanks to you
It's
guys.
been so very, very much time. We will see you all next week. We'll have more results, more chats, hopefully more pundits, more people discussing it. We'll try and rattle a few. But until then, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you after the next one.
Goodbye.